Well, the South African delegation attending next week's UK-Africa Investment Conference will be without President Cyril Ramaphosa. Political and business leaders gather in London on Monday to discuss the next step in relations between the continent and the United Kingdom. eNCA's Devan Murugan spoke to British High Commissioner Nigel Casey about how and if the UK's imminent departure from the European Union will affect the discussions.
African alliances, African trading arrangements beyond Brexit. I would imagine this is one of the big drivers and factors that is really driving this UK-Africa Investment Conference this weekend.
That's right. We've been giving a lot of thought as a government to the future of our engagement with Africa. We feel we've underinvested perhaps in the last decade or so. We're reversing that now. So this investment conference is part of a wider drive by us to really up our engagement in Africa, and that includes reopening or opening 5 new diplomatic missions on the continent, adding 400 extra staff, doing a range of things. But the focus on investment on Monday is because this is the number one thing that African governments, African businesses ask of us. They're not so much interested these days in development. They want investment. They want investment to drive growth in their own economies, particularly export-led growth. And our strength as the UK has historically been as a source and conduit for international investment, particularly out into Africa. We're a leading investor in countries like South Africa already, but we're not complacent about that. There's lots of competition around these days, and we're determined to maintain a leading role, and that's what Monday is all about.
Let's talk about that competition, because on both sides of the spectrum here, you've got to be convincing. Because you have the Chinese, you have the Saudi Arabians here, a lot of competition.
Yeah, we see it as a friendly competition, to be honest. I mean, there's plenty of space for more investment in Africa. Africa attracts a really small percentage of international outward direct investment at the moment, and we share an ambition along with colleagues in the EU, in the US, China and others to raise that. So it's not really as though we're directly competing for investment projects into Africa. And our USP is that we don't really do state-led investment as other countries I mentioned do. We do mainly private sector investment. So Monday is about providing a platform for African governments, African businesses to lay out their investment case, to offer opportunities for investors, and to access the financial instruments that are on offer in and through London and the UK.
The leader of the most advanced economy in Africa, that's South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, will not be at the investment conference. Does that matter in any way? How do you see it?
Well, President Ramaphosa was in London quite recently. He went to the Financial Times' Africa Summit in October, and so in a sense he's made the case himself personally quite recently. And South Africa will be very well represented at this event, led by Dr. Pandor and a strong team, but also South African businesses, including some new up-and-coming tech businesses who you'll see present on Monday and speaking from the stage. So I think South Africa will be very present at the event.